So we finally come to assignment 5. Assignment 5 is a summing up and a reevaluation of everything you've been doing in the course up to this point. What you're going to be doing quite simply is providing a final research question, a final, more expanded outline, and a final bibliography of 23 items. Now, in order to do this effectively, you really need to be reflecting on everything that you're doing. Uh, your research question, for example, you need to look at it and say, is this the best way that I can express this? Is there some clarification that's required? Do I need to change the slant of it in any way? You might be totally satisfied with the question you have, so just leave it the way it is. But if you notice any things that could be improved, now is your last chance to make that kind of improvement. Beyond that, as you take a look at your outline, I want you to expand it a bit. And down here in the assignment itself, I've got an example of an expansion. This is on the meaning of the term gospel, which is not entirely clear because there is an ancient Greek kind of meaning, and then there's a meaning in the New Testament preaching and in the Gospels themselves that diverges slightly from the ancient meaning. And so it's a matter of trying to make sense of what do we actually mean by the term gospel. So I've got an outline here with the term gospel in this ancient Greek setting as a main heading, term gospel in the New Testament preaching the gospel in Acts and in Paul, and then the meaning of gospel as in Mark 1:1, the beginning of the gospel, which is the Gospel of Mark. And you notice I've got subheadings as well, so that it's expanded. The kind of format that works quite well with this sort of thing is introduction, and then the first point is a Roman numeral 1, large Roman numeral 1. Subheadings are capital letters A, B, and if you have subheadings, they would be 1, 2, 3. This pattern is very common in doing outlines, but I want you to expand on what you have as your basic outline. You may want to modify that, get it up to date a bit, but try to expand into some subheadings so that I can get a clear sense of where you're going. And what I want you to be showing me here is how you plan to develop this thing, what you plan to cover, the direction you plan to take. And that's the sort of thing that really is important for you to look at. There is also a bibliography of 23 items. At least 8 of these must be journal articles. You could have 23 journal articles if you want, or essays or conference papers, but at least 8 must be journal articles. Some people like to focus on books, and I want you to make sure you've got at least 8 articles. On the other hand, your topic might be best for journal articles, and you might have all articles, or you might have a mix of the two, but 23 is the total. Once again, you'll be using the Turabian Humanities or Notes and Bibliography format. Make sure you don't use Turabian author date. And by this point, you should be getting your bibliographies into pretty much perfect order as far as the formatting is concerned. So review your formatting and try to make sure that you've covered things well and that it's actually correct. Make sure that you don't have incomplete citations. Your citations, however, can come from all the work that you've done up to this point. You don't necessarily have to find new citations. You might want to do a little bit more work and find a few new ones, or you could just use the ones that you've found from assignments 2 to 4 and see if you can just incorporate those. What I'm looking for in a bibliography is, first of all, high relevance, which means that they relate to your research question in some way or other, so that they address your research question in full or at least in part. And so I don't want to see stuff that's sort of outside the boundaries of your research question. The second thing is that they have to be quite focused, your references, so that you're not sort of dealing with the fringes of your question, side issues, etc., but you're really focusing narrowly on what your question is about, what your question is trying to obtain as an answer. I also want to look at quality, and I will take a look at what you've got, books and articles, to make sure that they really do have some scholarly value to them and are not just light pieces. But your final bibliography is your final chance to show me how well you can put together a bibliography that responds to the research question. There's a rubric for this one as well. You can have a look at that. I haven't stated a potential response to it because the response really is quite simple. If you go up to the assignment template, you'll find that there's just 3 parts to it. What's your research question? What's your outline? And what's your final bibliography? So have a good time with this. It's a way of pulling together everything you've been doing up to this point and showing me where you have arrived in your learning. Thanks. And once again, any questions that you have, please just email me. Thank you very much.